When you say the term pocket rocket, a few things come to mind. Turbocharged 4-cylinder engines, primarily German and Japanese brands, a penchant for the consumption of energy drinks, and probably simping over Madison Beer's Instagram. But much in the same way that no one says, I can't stop listening to Madison Beer's new album, car enthusiasts never used to say, don't forget to include the Koreans on that list when talking about hot hatchbacks. Hyundai apparently took offense to that, and a few years ago, they decided to give the Veloster the N treatment, a letter that didn't really mean much of anything, until it did. See, if you're gonna come up with a performance letter, then you better get someone to legitimize it. Hyundai obviously thought about this, so they employed Albert Biermann, formerly of BMW's M division, to create their N division. Did it work? Well, Biermann's been involved with the Kia Stinger, which is pretty great, the Genesis G70, which I absolutely loved when I tested it, and he's basically responsible for the creation of the N division, which brings us back to the Veloster N, a car that Road and Track named the 2020 Performance Car of the Year. I mean, that seems crazy, right? That field included the new C8 Chevy Corvette, as well as the BMW M2 and the Porsche 911, and the epitome of automotive handling, the Mazda Miata. So how could a funky second-generation Korean hatchback hang with some of the coolest performance cars that you can buy today? Well, let's start with a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 275 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, all running through an 8-speed dual-clutch gearbox. Don't worry, Biermann's got you back. You can get a 6-speed manual transmission, with rev matching if you want it or not, because every enthusiast claims that they don't want rev matching as if they actually know how to heel toe. I am an enthusiast, I suck at heel towing, I appreciate the rev matching. Yes, you can be an enthusiast and still enjoy rev matching. 0 to 60 arrives in just over 5.5 seconds with the dual clutch and launch control. And you can bring it all to a stop thanks to 13.6-inch vented front brake discs. The rear are vented as well. They are 12-point-something-inch brake discs. I just forgot, but I didn't want to cut. That's movie magic, or not magic, actually. That's blooper reel mistakes. Should have put this in the blooper reel. And then you take all those ingredients and you make sure that it can handle, like really handle, like makes you question the Honda Civic Type R handle. Like every time you get behind the wheel, you think, oh, yeah. This car deserves to be driven. This car begs to be driven. So we're gonna have more of the driving part in this review and less of me yakking about the car, because to be honest with you, this car is a delight to drive, an absolute delight. And even though I had heard how good this car was, even though I had read Road and Track's Performance Car of the Year review of this car, it really catches you off guard just how good this car is to drive. All right, we're gonna swing on to the handling road here right off the bat. I'm gonna put it in N mode, not M mode. We're gonna talk about that in a second. I'm gonna put it in N mode, and we're gonna see how it does. One thing I'll tell you right away is that this car rides firm. And I mean firm. You're probably gonna be able to see it on camera as we go over this first rough part here coming up. But it, we'll say it adheres to the road. It feels like you're driving a race car. First corner, taking it at extra legal speeds. And the thing that sticks out there is that this car feels so neutral. Does not feel like a front wheel drive hatchback. This feels like a really aggressive performance car. And it is super cool. Although I have to admit, I am not looking forward to the big bump coming up. It's probably gonna be rather intense in N mode. That wasn't as bad as I thought. Oh, well, yeah, that little part was. Oh, man. This is like when I was driving the NSX. This car's like, I am not playing around. I am not playing around. Take me seriously. I am not playing around. You get the dual clutch with the blaps on the downshift. Yeah. Man, that is fun. Good power too. It gets up and moves. It's not wasting time. Not wasting my time, not wasting its time, and I'm not wasting your time because this car is so fun. This steering wheel is like literal perfection. I love this steering wheel. I love the grips. I love the thickness. I love where the controls are laid out. I like that you got your drive mode bottom left. You got your N mode and custom modes bottom right. It's just such a delight to wheel this car around. And that turn in, it makes you just want to, I was exaggerating because I'm not going to drive off the road, but it's just so fun. Yes, the suspension is hard. I'm not going to lie. In N mode and in sport mode, and to be honest with you, in regular mode, the suspension is firm. We are in N mode right now, and it is keeping those Pirellis glued to the road, but they are like thin strips of paper around the, I believe, 19-inch wheels. And they are so skinny, and you feel a lot of the road. Your spine better be in alignment, because you're gonna need one after driving this. There we go. Oh, that upshift was so hard. It's like, look at me, I'm a McLaren. And you might be confused that you're in some type of supercar because these seats are supercar shaped seats. They're supercar shells, man. They hold you in place, they feel great. They've got the little glowing ends in the headrests, which I love. I think that's such a cool touch. They look fantastic, they feel fantastic. In fact, the only thing dynamically that doesn't feel fantastic, really, is brake pedal feel. The brakes are incredibly strong. Don't get me wrong, they can pull you to a stop. But the pedal doesn't have the firmness that you would expect when everything else in this car is dialed up to 11. And that's really the best way to describe the Veloster N. Everything is dialed up to 11. It's like, let me off the leash. I want to go, go, go all the time.
These go to 11.
You get into N mode and it just knows that you're not playing around. It cranks open that exhaust so you hear every bit of it, which is good and bad because it's a little bit nasally. It's like, or something around that sound effect. I practiced that for a long time, okay? Leave me alone. But there's so much grip out of this little thing. I mean, going around some of these corners and these back roads by where I live, you would think you were in a much more expensive and capable car. The level of grip, especially on turn-in, it feels so light and so direct. The steering, I cannot overstate how good the steering is in this car. There's even a bit of actual feel when you gun it. You can feel the front wheels kind of grabbing traction as the limited slip E-diff kind of figures it out. It even has different modes and settings. Right now it's in its most aggressive mode because we're in N mode. And you know what? Elephant in the room, this dual clutch is pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie, yes, it comes in a manual. I'm not gonna lie though, I would seriously think about getting this dual clutch transmission. It does such a good approximation of like an aggressive Porsche style dual clutch. Let's go around this corner kind of fast here. Let's see what happens. It's so undisturbed by that. It's like, yeah, so what else are you gonna do? What else do you got? Ooh, you had a tripod I have in the back flopping around. Probably should have taken that out of the car before filming the driving portion. I love the downshifts. It's got so much character. It's just so fun. That's the thing about this chassis. If you were like, hey, guess what? Hot Hatch has an amazing chassis, I would have not have been like, Hyundai Veloster. You know, you think the usual players like Volkswagen Golf GTI or something like that, but this is just on another level of frenetic energy, just capable, aggressive energy. That's just the best way to describe this car. Energy, excitement. It's like the Civic Type R's kind of raucous younger brother. The Civic Type R would be like, the parents are out of town and it's like, let's have a few people over for a small gathering. And the Veloster N's like, kegger! No, like seriously. I mean, good gracious, this car is so fun. The other thing you have to praise Hyundai for here is you don't necessarily think Hyundai performance when you think of turbocharged 4-cylinder engines. And you can see how rough the ride is in mode. I'm gonna switch over to comfort, which is just called normal, and it's not a whole lot more comfortable, but it's better than N mode. But back to the engine, you don't necessarily associate Hyundai with amazing turbo 4s, and this is a really good engine. I mean, maybe the sound isn't the best, but it's got so much grunt. It feels more powerful than it actually is. In fact, I just had the Mazda 3 Turbo not long ago, which has over 300 pound-feet of torque. And this has 260 pound-feet and does not really feel any slower at all in even enthusiastic driving. I think that's a testament to how dialed in this car is, both from a powertrain standpoint, transmission standpoint, chassis standpoint. It's just dialed in a way that you would not expect from Hyundai. Hyundai, more of this, please. Thank you, Hyundai. Thank you, Albert Bierman. This car is delightful. Back to N mode, because exhaust reasons. I'm gonna be quiet here, you just listen. And then the downshifts. A little bit of crackle. I don't know if you could hear that. All right, let's go back to normal mode so I don't shatter all of my bones and joints. Here's what's great about driving this car, okay? This is the best way to put it. It makes you happy that other people are out there making mechanical things like this, that this car is put together for pretty much no other reason than to put a smile on your face. And not just in overall performance, in all of the details, all of the little details. From the sky blue accents around the cabin, to the glowing N on the seat backs, to the punch in the back of the dual clutch, to the exhaust sound. I know it's not the greatest, but the noise and the character, and even the fact that the suspension is too harsh, honestly. It kind of fits the character of the car. It's like, I don't care. What are you gonna do about it? You bought me. Enjoy it. It just makes you laugh. I just wish that so many other brands would commit to building at least one model or variant that's sort of dedicated to the purpose of having fun, that's just sort of dedicated to excitement, or even, dare I say, silliness, without compromising in some critical way, whether it's space and packaging, fuel economy, reliability. That's kind of the magic of this car, is it checks off a lot of boxes. I know what you might be wondering. Is it as dynamically good as the Type R? I'm not sure that it is. but I do think aspects of it are as good. In outright performance, probably not. Steering, accuracy, and feel might be better. It's certainly not without its flaws, but man, it gets so much right. So there have to be some drawbacks, right? I just lavishly praised this car in the driving portion of the video, but there have to be some drawbacks. It's not perfect, right? I mean, I praised it and I told you it could be yours for under 35 grand. I mean, at least I think I did, depending on how I edited this video together. And I chattered like an idiot while I made loud noises with the exhaust system. You know, kind of like this. So why haven't I already purchased one of these incredible little cars? Well, there's a few reasons that might give you pause. Other than the perfection circle that is the Veloster N steering wheel, as well as the awesome bucket seats that wouldn't look out of place in a McLaren, the rest of the interior is kind of plasticky trash. Functionally, it's perfectly fine, and there's plenty of space for my 6.5 feet, even in the back seat behind the passenger. If you didn't know, the Veloster is a 3-door with the extra door being on the passenger side. So there's a decent amount of space in the back, both for people and stuff. There's a deep well of cargo space to hold your things. But the interior plastics are garbage, and they cover pretty much every surface imaginable. Hyundai's infotainment system is pretty great when it comes to features, but it can be unbelievably laggy sometimes when switching between apps or settings. It's far too laggy for a modern vehicle, but this is a complaint I have about many infotainment systems. It just seems particularly egregious in some cases here. And then there's the sort of always-on nature of the car that I mentioned during the driving segment. So you're really gonna have to take a test drive and decide for yourself. It wouldn't bother someone like me who's an enthusiast with a relatively short daily commute, but if you have a long commute over rough roads, especially you northerners, the ride in this car is gonna be kind of punishing. Definitely get behind the wheel before you make your final decision. So at the end of the day, would I buy a Hyundai Veloster N? But to be honest with you, that is a really tough question, because there's about a 4 grand separation between the Veloster you see behind me and my beloved Honda Civic Type R. There's also about a 30 horsepower and 30 pound-feet of torque separation in favor of the Type R. To be fair, you don't really notice the power deficit in daily driving. The Veloster N is still seriously quick, as you probably noticed in the driving segment. And it's certainly quick enough that I don't know if it would justify spending another 4 grand, because are you really getting 4 grand worth more of speed and handling? It's also objectively, and I say objectively because we're talking about unequivocal facts here, not opinions, much better looking than the Civic Type R. It has arguably better steering than the Civic Type R, and Hyundai's infotainment system, despite a little lagginess, is more comprehensive and complete than what you get from the Honda Civic Type R. It also doesn't really require explanation to onlookers every single time you pick up your kids from soccer practice. Yeah, it's a Honda Civic. Yeah, it's supposed to look that way. No, I didn't lose a bet. I don't want to vape with you either. Have you heard Madison Beer's new album? Personally, I love this thing. I think it's fantastic. And I can totally see what Road and Track was on about when they named it Performance Car of the Year. But if it were my money, I might still buy the Type R. Regardless of the way it looks, it's still a more usable daily driver in my opinion. with a sort of better daily ride under normal conditions in its least aggressive setting. But from a power and handling standpoint, and definitely from a look standpoint, I can assure you that you would not be disappointed buying the Veloster N. What you should really do is take one for a test drive, and then you can decide, is N right for you? Also, to be 100% transparent before we wrap up here, I literally could go back and forth either way. I mean, look at that thing. It looks fantastic for a hot hatch. I actually might go with the Veloster N. I really don't know. I would have to drive them back to back. If for some reason you had the opportunity to do so, I would strongly suggest it. $4,000, you know, over the course of a loan, not all that much per month. So that's really a dead heat. Maybe if my channel grows up to be a big boy like Throttle House or the Straight Pipes, I can arrange some type of comparison test. Until then, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy cars like this that sort of make sense in daily usage. It's fun testing more luxurious cars or more sporty cars. Obviously, when I had the NSX, that was really cool. But cars like this are sort of practical fun that you could see yourself owning. As a father of two who has to make practice runs and drive to work every day, this car would fit into my lifestyle and still give me an amazing return on investment in regards to driving enthusiasm. So I really think cars like this are kind of the perfect thing to test, and they're the most relevant for car enthusiasts watching YouTube videos like this. I hope you agree. I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any questions, comments, or opinions about the Veloster N or the Civic Type R, leave them in the comments below. I try to respond to all the comments I can. And until next time, ride safe, drive safe, and I will catch you in the next review. Peace. By a school zone, I don't think I'll crush it right here. Probably not the best idea. God, that was so harsh.